Hi, the goal of this video is to get started with the server side of a TCP IP client server arrangement. We will create a program which would accept an incoming connection on the IP address of the PC on which it is running, and we are going to use port number 23000 for this purpose. I will show you the steps which are needed to call the accept method on a socket. And please be informed that this part of the course does not demonstrate production grade code. The purpose of this section is to familiarize you with how sockets work in principle, so the production grade code will follow in the later sections. So what are we waiting for? Let's head over to the Visual Studio. I got Visual Studio 2017 installed on my machine. You can use an older version of the Visual Studio. You might have noticed that I am running Windows 7. You can use an older version or a newer version of Windows 7 as well. That's not a problem as long as it has got the .NET framework installed on it. I am going to create a new project over here. New project. And inside the install templates, I am going to go to Visual C#, Windows Classic Desktop, and I am going to pick the console app.NET framework. I have named this project Socket Server Starter, and I'm going to hit enter or click the OK button here. The first thing which I am going to do is to go on the top section of our program and add a few namespaces. We need to add the namespaces system.net and system.net.sockets here. So I'm going to add those using system.net. Okay, using system.net.sockets. Alright, so these two are here now. And then I'm going to go to the main method of my program. And inside the main method, I will create an object of socket class. SOCKET socket space listener socket, that's the name of my variable, and I will assign it a new value equals to new socket like this, and I am going to use a specific constructor here, the constructor which takes three values. The first value is the socket type. I am going to supply it address family dot internetwork, okay, comma, the socket type is streaming socket. For that I am going to put here socket type dot stream, comma, the next one is protocol type, all these are enumeration values, dot TCP. Alright, so we now have a new object. The first parameter means that this is an IPv4 socket. It is possible to create an IPv6 socket here too using the same constructor but supplying a different parameter value. The next parameters are self-describing, like this is a streaming socket and we are going to use the TCP protocol. After this, I need to create an object of an IP address, that will be IP address IPADDR, that's the name of my variable, and we are not going to new it here. Instead we are going to supply it a constant which is defined in the IP address class, that is IP address.any. This is a special type of variable. IP address.any means that our socket will be listening for incoming connections on any available IP address of this PC. A system, as I told you earlier, can have multiple IP addresses. So using the IP address.any means that our program can use the loopback IP address, which is 127.0.0.1, or it can use the IP address which is currently assigned to this PC and which is shown in the ipconfig command results. So don't get confused right now. I know it could be slightly confusing. I am going to clarify these concepts as we move forward. Once we have defined the IP address, we need to define an IP endpoint. That's another framework variable, IP endpoint, IPEP equals to new IP endpoint. An endpoint is a combination of an IP address and a port. In IP address, I will supply the IP ADDR, and in the port, I am going to supply simply a port number, that is 23,000, and that will be that. After this, we will bind the socket to the IP endpoint which we just created. In order to do that, I am going to call a method on the listener socket object like listener socket dot bind. Alright, and I am going to supply it the IP endpoint or the combination of the IP address and port number which we just created. Alright, the method is done, but the socket is still not working. We need to do a few more things. Okay. Alright, so after this we will call the listen method. The listen method is called on the socket object like listener socket dot listen, and we are going to supply it a number here. This parameter tells the system how many clients can wait for a connection at any time while the system is busy handling another connection. In order to make something happen, we need to do one final step, and that is to call the accept method on our listener socket. Let's do it. Listener socket dot accept, that is that. Alright, so accept is a blocking operation. It is a synchronous operation. Our program will not move forward until this operation is finished. And once this operation is finished, we will get an object of a socket type which we are going to use in the next video after the demonstration. The most important thing is that you could get familiar with how to get started. I know these are very simple steps, but it is possible for anybody to get stuck at any point, and being an instructor, it is my responsibility to help you as much as I can. So see you in the next video.